My name is Andrea. I'm an artist in residence through Levine Cancer Institute in Concord. I hope I'm finding you and your family safe and well.
For my example, I'm working on a red construction paper, and so 2 parts. This is just to encourage, you can work on any surface, whatever, for whatever reason, whatever you can get a hold of, I encourage. I think it's really fun to change up a background color every once in a while and not always just look at that glaring white paper. There's an emotion that comes from color, and there might be a spontaneity that exists in seeing an underlying color there behind your drawing than just that stark white. White is perfectly fine, but again, I encourage you to just grab something else. Maybe it's even just a paper bag from your groceries the last trip, that type of thing. So I have my teacup sitting in front of me. It's sitting on a saucer. And I will also say, my goal is to, in the end, you don't necessarily know what color it is, because these are going to include so many uses of colors to create what would be lights and darks in this case, that you truly in the end won't know, but we're implying a little bit of value using color. I also like working on the color too, because it forces you to find your highlights. Meaning if I have a white paper, I just don't put in a color or a value where I want that highlight to be. Here, I have to put it down on page, and I have to really prove that I observe it and put it into thought. So without much more thought on that, I'm just going to jump into it. So for me, I have an ellipse here at the top. Work wherever you want. Don't overthink where that location is going to be. This is going to be in turn a grander doodle. I'm actually going to work in white just so you can see it a little better. Feel free to do the same for you. So I like to work off that top rim first. Now, see how many times I'm going around over this. I'm not drawing a perfect ellipse right off of the bat. Now, I wish you could see my eyes too, because the key in observational drawing is to observe. I know, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But we observe. And so my eyes are bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. I'm looking twice as much as what I'm drawing. And I have to be in a comfortable location so that I'm looking at that item the entire time. Now, I'm not going to put too much pressure on that. I know I'm going to later go in and kind of clean some stuff up. This isn't an end-all be-all. So I'm looking at some proportion here. Again, not overthinking, but my cup is wider than what it is tall. So I just want to kind of use that observation. Sometimes I like to give myself a little mark to work towards. If I just start winging the left side and the right side, I don't really have a guidance point for that. So maybe I'll switch up my colors a little bit. Don't overthink these colors right off the bat. We'll have fun digging into those. So mine tapers in a little bit on the left and right. Notice how I do a little bit of left and right. I don't, again, just go in one fell swoop. And that way, I'm kind of encouraging this symmetrical thought. Let me also point out, nobody else is seeing this teacup or coffee mug except you. So don't beat yourself up if you're not looking at perfection in front of you. This is a learning experience. All right, I'm going to work a little bit darker here too. I see a little jog of a implied ellipse down here. I don't see the full thing though. Let's see down here. And again, I'm working a little darker so you can see it, but also I'm starting to get into some shadowy areas down here anyway, so I know I'm going to get darker. So let's just work off of that. And I could include a saucer later if I wanted, but just work off this. Okay, now the fun in the handle comes out. I have my handle. I drink my coffee right-handed, so I have my handle coming out over there. Think about those things, but just set it up how you want. I want to try to think of it kind of in a shape. So I'm taking little bit by bit, and then I'm using that negative space, that opening right there, where my finger would loop into that. Now right now it's going to look fairly flat. It's going to be our goal later to add some dimension to that. And again with color, which will be used for value because it is not such a rounded object in life. Okay, so I feel good about that. Now I've got my white, so I'm just going to go ahead and start forcing in what I say where I see my highlights. Now, it doesn't necessarily grow in such solid ways. I might see some striations in here. Now, my cup's looking a little sad. It looks like I just drank my coffee. So to encourage, if you would like to, go ahead and put your liquid in there, or just leave it open. It's up to you. Or maybe your angle's a little closer and you won't see so much fluid. So I'm using some white, but with the idea that not everything is going to be stark white, I could still have some lighter places that I can play with a yellow. A yellow is also just a lighter, brighter color. Obviously worked on red, it's not going to be as bright of a yellow. It's probably going to come out more orange, but that's okay. And I know my whole thought process through this is, I'm always telling you, don't overthink it, don't overthink it. Do you kind of just let your hand grab into that jar and see what comes out and see where it's called to be put down. There obviously gets to this thought process where you need to consider, okay, well, what would imply these darker values? And in my case, it's going to be blues, dark greens, purples. That's a definite one. Notice I'm not mentioning black. I am not mentioning black because black tends to muddy the color when in turn in your shadow it's just a darker version of that color of your mug, cup, whatever it might be. So I don't want to just muddy that. Now I'm not saying there's no need for that black crayon at any point, just not in this case. I want you to kind of think in these stages. Now I'm kind of building into this. I have this lighter blue. I'm kind of building into this shadowy idea. I have some striations here. Really want to emphasize it in that handle. It's catching light right here because it flattens out on this side. And it catches light right there on the tip top with these inside edges. You get some darkness. And that's important. So you notice me really digging in. I have some line striations in here. Where it gets tricky is when you get these bigger bodied areas where there's just not much happening as far as the movement of the cup or the mug goes. So I want to emphasize that still your direction is pretty important in there. So you'll notice that if I'm moving up, I'm still kind of hugging in this formation of that mug. And if I'm moving left and right, it still implies a little bit of a dip. So you'll see in comparison to the red, this is just a slightly darker version of it. So when I get to those middle areas, that did seem like a really good transitional tone. Now I want to get some, like I was worried about the depth and the thickness of this. I want to apply that off of my rim a little more and then work into this bigger bodied area. So again, I might really apply some whites here, but very quickly. It's going to turn dark for me because it's casting its shadow on itself, and then it turns instantly light. This is my observation, not yours. Make it yours. Just look. You could do this same thing with color pencils or pastels, but just note there is so much to be gained from using a material like construction paper and crayons that you have used so many times and not thought twice about. It just has such a childlike experience to it. I'm not saying that your artwork then would and should and could look childlike. It's saying, pick me up. Don't be intimidated. So now I'm working in this body. It's okay to let that color paper shine through. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's why I like working on the color too, because And then there's something else there. It's not just that glaring white, but don't let it completely overshadow your need for something else there. Okay, to let it shine in there. So now if I really start to find this need for something darker, I gotta find those dark blues and those dark violets. So you're gonna notice I worked up to that. I'd hate to go too dark too fast and then not be able to go back. If I do go pretty dark in some areas, it is okay though. I just have to darken everything else in comparison. So this is casting a little bit of a shadow in there. If I'd like to, just to give it some stability, I can kind of start to apply a little bit of a shadow. Now, as much as I just over talked, you know, moving everything in this kind of circular or elliptical way, when it comes to shadow, it's resting on a flat surface. So then your shadows flatten out. There's not going to be dimension to it. It's going to be darkest right there. So we put some more pressure on it. And it's going to be, in general, dark around there. So be scribbly with it, be light. Don't overdo that. Now I need to make this, get in here and darken. Look how scribbly that is. And by pushing this a little darker, now all of a sudden my top of my rim starts to develop a little more. It's a push and a pull of a value in order for that to evolve. This is all evolving, it takes time. So again, with my red paper, if I need to look for what I'd call those middle values where it's kind of like, yeah, it's not really dark and it's also not really a bright white, that's where I'd be using those reds, oranges, things like that in that similar category. Consider that for what color paper you're working on. Again, sometimes just like a crepe paper, that's always a fun thing to work off of because it's kind of a nice middle ground, and it's not, doesn't have a powerful color involved in there already. Get some going in, filling that in a little more. Every once in a while you'll see me try to really use the point of that with much more intention. Get that line, crisp it up, especially right there. Even with that. And it's okay to blend your colors. I'm not working with a huge mega pack of crayons here. I just have kind of a 16 pack. You could also, again, always use what you have, but you could even just use an 8-pack of crayons, 6 main colors, and then just blend what you have. And not to say brown isn't necessary in this, but brown is the mixture of all your colors anyway. It's just, it will happen on its own. Notice how kind of brownish that looks because I have a mixture of those colors, so I tend to avoid it just so it forces me to do my own neutrals, as I put it. Find my own. And you'll see, even though I have these guidelines that were fairly straight at first, every once in a while I just sort of strayed outside of that, and that's why I call those guidelines before. I have some ridges and bumps on my cup here, so now I just work outside of that, and I might bear down just a little bit harder So don't feel confined like it's a coloring book page and you have to stick within those parameters. They're guides. They're not something to forcefully stay within. And so you'll just continue to play. Let yourself see how light and fun your line work can get into it. This is where I get kind of liberated and love to just scribble at it. There's something really therapeutic about that idea, about really tearing into drawing. Eventually, if you build up real high as far as the amount of crayon or medium, you're not going to be able to build up tons more. So you eventually either have to move on to another paper or just call it quits for a little bit and come back to it. I'd be really intrigued. This is the fun of this too, is just see how much your colors might have changed if you were to approach this exact same drawing, or at least the exact same subject matter tomorrow. Would that change dramatically as far as your use of color? How much of ourselves are shown in our subconscious use of that? So much to that. So again, you try to see I'm getting the highlight on the top, and there's a little highlight hitting off that, and that's why it's darker over here on this side, is because now this is blocking light. So you see me doing what I call popping and pulling some values. And this rim is exceptionally dark right there for that same reason. It's being blocked, so I want to thin that out. I just want to soften this value in general. It's a shiny surface, so. So my friends, the best advice I can give for you in the drawing world, in the art world in general, is just do it. Just do more and more and more of it. And learn from what you just did. Even if you don't feel like you have and you just feel like it's nothing that you can be proud of, know that you really did learn something from that experience, and that it will carry you through to the next one and the next one. If art doesn't provide life lessons better than anything, I don't know what does. We just keep at it, we persevere, we push through, we enjoy our sips of coffee and tea when we can, and we find different colors in different days, and we just observe it and take it for what it is. I hope you enjoy your drawing activity today, friends, and just remember to continue with it, to persevere, and just enjoy the process. Take care, my friends.